computer let me start over since the recording just started. Today, we are privileged to welcome Pamela Brigham. Pamela is president of the Silicon Valley Computer Genealogy Group. She believes in using technology as a tool to help break through brick walls and to tell her family's history. Ms. Brigham teaches genealogy classes on a wide variety of topics and often presents at the Ancestor Roundup down in Seaside. She earned a certificate in genealogy from Boston University. There is a handout for today's program, and there will be time at the end of the presentation for her to answer questions. So please do put your questions into the Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screen. This presentation is also being recorded and will soon be posted on the Santa Cruz Public Library's YouTube channel, where you may watch it again. Please join me in giving Pamela Brigham a warm Zoom welcome. Great to have you here, Pam.
Thank you, Gail. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. And get a couple things out of the way here. There we are. So I've got a couple of slides here that I'll go through, but mainly we're going to be actually operating on the Transkribus website. Strong believer, and if I can, I'll do things live. So bear with me a little on that, because occasionally Transkribus will change stuff and suddenly I'll find out, oh, wait, there's a new way of doing things. So we're going to talk about uploading documents, transcribing, exporting options, a little bit about pricing and some additional features, and then how you get help. A couple things about Transkribus to begin with. Transkribus only transcribes documents. It does not translate documents, but it does transcribe documents, both handwritten and print documents, or they can be mixed if you've got something like a census record that has, typewritten columns and then has handwritten entries. You can use Transkribus to transcribe that as well. You can access this for free. The thing that's nice is you can sign up for an account. Signing up for an account does allow you to save documents, allows you to then go back and search the transcriptions of those documents, and also allows you to train your own models. So if you have a lot of letters or a lot of particular records from someone, and when I say a lot, I'm talking like hundreds of pages of letters, then you are able to train your own model. And when you train your own model, it has the tendency to start learning and getting the transcriptions more and more accurate. Talk briefly about what Transkribus is, because I've always wondered this question. Transkribus is what's called a co-op, and it was formed in Austria, and it's formed, it's got about 200 different co-owners of companies, and its primary mission is really to help people access their history, whether it's through, if it's through documents, handwritten documents, transcribing old handwritten documents, or transcribing print documents, and then being able to put that up into a site that people can access. Transkribus's focus is to make sure that people do have access to that history and that information about their local community and about their families. So this is a little overview on pricing, just really quick. You can also, I'll show you where you can access this on their website as well. It is free to an extent with anything, of course. They do operate on a credit system. You get so many free credits per month, 50 credits per month. If you have a scholar subscription, you get 150. I think they actually changed that to 100 credits per month for about $20 or 20 euros, which turns out to be about $21, $22 per month. But for the free account, you can do just about everything you really need to in terms of text recognition, the custom AI model training if you want to. I'll show you the document editor. You can do that full text search of all the documents that you've transcribed, and allows you to export those documents into Word documents, PDFs, or markdown language. You've got a decent amount of document storage. If you are doing custom model training, you have so many training runs per month that you can do, and allows you some basic customer support under the free plan. You do get some additional access with the Scholar model. You get access to what they've called their super models, and a little bit of background on what an AI training or an AI model is. So these are models that have been trained specifically to recognize either a specific language of handwriting or a specific style of handwriting. Think like Old German or Old English handwriting. And supermodels have a tendency to incorporate multiple languages. So think along the lines of a church record from the Alsace-Lorraine region, which I have accessed and I might be able to show you today, that has German, Latin, a little bit of French thrown in for good measure as well. The supermodels are easier to use to transcribe those because they do deal with multiple languages. And then the Scholar allows you to do field recognition and table recognition as well, and we'll get more into that a little bit later. Now, these are some of the ways you can get help. It's in your handout. Let's go ahead and let me get out of this slideshow and minimize that and go over to the Transkribus homepage. So this, if you scroll up, actually, this is what you get when you first load the Transkribus homepage. And you're like, great, where do I start with this? If you scroll down, you can just try it out. You can drag and drop an image here, or you can select a file on your computer. Do note one thing, hopefully all can see my cursor here, or my mouse. It defaults to German. This is important that if you're dragging a document in here that's in English, a letter in English from one of your ancestors, and you click, you drag it in here, and it starts transcribing it. If you don't change this default, you're going to get a very interesting transcription because it's going to try to take that lovely English letter and transcribe it into German. So you want to make sure you click on the little drop-down arrow. If you've got an English letter, change it over to English. You'll notice here that the AI model changed over to the English Eagle. The English Eagle, I've used it to transcribe a whole bunch of letters. I'll show you how it works today because it is absolutely a fantastic AI model for transcribing letters that were written probably from at least the late 1700s all the way through the 20th century, done in English. It does a really good job at transcribing those. So I'll show you that later today. Now, this is if you just want to try it out. If you want to actually create an account, you can select try free. It'll open this. You can register by putting in your email, create a password, put in first name, last name. It's up to you if you want to receive their little newsletter. And I'm going to go back to login here. And I'm actually already signed in, but hey, I'll sign in again. Why not? So this signs me in because I've already registered, and it brings me to my home page here. So I'm going to try to move something out of the way to make that easier to see. There. So this happily says, welcome to, just getting a couple things out of the way, welcome to Transkribus. This shows me the most recent documents that I've accessed here. All these different letters, the most recent collections, and then allows me, if I just want to do a quick text recognition, then I can easily drag and drop a file in here. And again, defaults to German. Make sure you change it to whatever language you're looking for. If you're looking for French, they have several languages here. Do note that if you change to Latin, I think the Latin on the quick text only does handwritten or does print Latin, not handwritten Latin. Yeah. There's a lot of church records with handwritten Latin, and I'm kind of a challenge. So again, this is the home page. This is your desktop where you'll be doing most of your work. There's also this tab here, which is models. We'll get into that later. Sites we'll talk about later. Activity, this shows you when you've done transcription runs, which they call recognition. So recognition runs, if I was training any models, any training runs, up and downloads. So whether I've uploaded any documents or whether I've asked it to export any documents, I can click and find that here. So if I look at, say, up and downloads, it's going to come over here. Give it a sec. Here's where I uploaded an image earlier today or yesterday. And here's where I did a document export. Anytime you do a document export, two things happen. It will send you an email, say, hey, your document's been exported. Here's a link to it. You can also come back here, click on these three little dots and select download if you want. That's another way to get to it. But this shows me my uploads and downloads. I can also go to recognition runs. And this will show me the uploads, downloads, and all the times I've done text recognition lately. So that just shows me all the different jobs that I've done. Now, going back to home here briefly, where I've found that I've done a lot of work out of is I'll go into collections. So a little bit about the file structure here in Transkribus. What you have, and let's go into one of my collections here, Ballard letters. These are letters from my fourth great grandmother, as well as my third great grandfather. A couple different sets here of letters that they have written and that I have used Transkribus to transcribe. And you'll notice here I've got, so this is one of the letters from my third great grandfather. If I go into that one, then I've got two images here. So these images are each of the pages of that letter. And then if I go back up, I've got the June 8th, 1912 is what I've titled this document. That's just the date that was on the letter. You can title it whatever you want. If you click on the little info button, if I wanted to change this and note that it was a J.U. Ballard was his name, letter, then I can click on that, do save, and it'll go ahead and update this with that title. And then that all falls under this collection of Ballard letters. So you have collections, documents are under the collection, and then within the documents, you have each page of the document. And you can have documents that have 50 pages. You can have documents that have one page. Maybe you've got a land record that it all happily fits on one page. And hey, that's the only image you need to upload is that one page, and that's your land record. So really do think a second or two before you just start uploading a bunch of things in here. When I can go back over here, you can see that I've used these little this little path of files of where I'm going. I can go back over here to collections. And when I was first uploading Canadian land records, and I have a lot of them, I thought, oh, I'll just, I'll upload all my Canadian land records all at once. And then I thought, no, you know what? I really don't want to do that. I want to update it. I want to upload them transaction by transaction to make it easier to separate out later, or to have separated out. This is one specific land transaction. This is another specific land transaction. Rather than uploading them all in a single document, I separated them out into individual documents with only an image or two, in some cases 3 images, depending upon the length of the land record per document. So think about that a little when it comes to organization. It's easy enough to move things around in here, but it's sometimes easier to plan a little bit ahead too, and just allow for separating out your images into a single document. So now I've already created this collection of Ballard letters. If I want to add more Ballard letters to this, I can simply click on upload. And I have the option where I can go ahead and drop some files in here. And let's go ahead and drop these files in here. and it will go ahead and start uploading those files. Now, I can then, when I go click on create document, it's going to go, okay, what do you want to call this document? So, want to call this document, this was September 8th, 1910. So let's go ahead and submit that. Now, are there better ways to title this document? Possibly. Again, it comes up to how do you want to organize things? And you're like, well, wait a minute, you just uploaded that and I don't see anything in here named September 8th, 1910. Where'd it go? You may need to click on a refresh. It may take a second or two to finish that job, finish the uploading, and voila, now here it is, the September 8th, 1910. That group of photos has now been uploaded. Couple things. You'll notice across the top here, these are all gray, okay? Transkribus does a really nice job of color coding all of the images in terms with this little bar across the top to tell you kind of what the status is. Gray means it's just been uploaded. No text transcription has been done on it whatsoever. So if I click on this one right now, it's going to come up and say, nope, we haven't done any transcription for this page yet. So I can go ahead and come back here and do a couple things. I can click, let's do a couple of these, do these two, and then I can click on recognize. This lovely little pop-up is going to come up on the right, and it's going to say, okay, you want to recognize text. There's a couple different things I can do with this. I can recognize the text itself in the document. I can recognize the layout. This is really helpful for if you've got a layout like land records, and I really wish I'd known this before I started transcribing all the Canadian land records that I did. You can recognize the layout, and land records usually have a tendency to have a main body and they have a bunch of stuff in the margins as well. And having it recognize the layout makes the transcription process that much easier because you're not having to go back in and move a bunch of things around and create additional zones. And I'll show you what I mean on that in a second. If you've got a document that has tables in it, such as a census layout or like a birth register for a church might have a bunch of tables in it as well, you can do that. If you need to recognize fields, specific fields from handwritten or printed document, you can use field here, but we're going to go with text. And then I get to select the model that I want to use. Now, first I want to select a specific language, so let's go with English. I have several models here that I've marked as favorite, and one of my favorite, of course, is the English Eagle. It's got an error rate of about 8.3%, but it does seem to do a really good job with a lot of the letters that I have. So, and then this down here will tell me that, hey, this is going to take 2 credits because I'm doing 2 pages. Usually it equals out to about a credit per page. I've got about 198 credits available, so no problem there. And I do have advanced settings here I can click on. I'm not worried about this at this point. Honestly, I can just go in here and start recognition. And it's now started a job. Text recognition on the title of September 8th, 1910. Tells me the date created. Apparently I'm number 218 in queue. But it takes a surprisingly little time to go ahead and get through and do the transcription. Now I can refresh this. The other thing, while that's running, it's still processing the data. It's doing a pretty good job of already processing the data. So give this one more refresh. It really doesn't take long. So let's go back over to decoding. Go back over to collections briefly here. And go back over to my Ballard letters. And let me go ahead and see if it's done doing that quite yet. No, not quite yet. So let's go to one of these others here. Let's go to June 8th, 1912. Sorry, go to one that I've actually transcribed. There we go. You'll notice how the bar across the top has changed to orange on this one. This one's still gray, meaning I haven't transcribed it yet, but I have transcribed this one. So if I click on this to open it up, now I get this image of the letter itself, and then over here, I get the transcription. Okay, few things in this image. These are regions. So you'll see highlighted in the green here. This is a specific region. Over here, this is another specific region. Under each of these, let me see if I can zoom in a little. You'll see these blue lines that are here. Those are, if I click on one of those, that'll show me the line. And here it says it transcribed it as Dear Tony. Yeah, not Dear Tony. It can actually, I can go in here and then edit this because I know that that says Dear Honey. So now I've edited that. So yeah, some of it's not too bad in terms of translation. Some of it, and this is, the guy had horrible handwriting, honestly. So I'm kind of happily impressed with how well this actually did. Now, once I do a few edits there, I want to go ahead and make sure I save that. With this, save early, save often very much applies. I have been in here where I did a whole bunch of edits one time, and I forgot to make sure that I was still actually logged in. And while it may kick you out after 24 hours, it doesn't tell you that it kicks you out after 24 hours. So you might think you're still logged in, make a whole bunch of edits, go to save, and it goes denied. No, not going to work. So yeah, do make sure you save early and save often. It's does help for that. So I can go in, make all the edits I want. Now, a couple of things. So one thing I noticed when I was in here earlier is if I look down here at this region, oh, sorry, wrong region. There we go. Yeah. Car for Fed. Awesome translation. So a couple things. One, there wasn't a line drawn under this. I could add a line if I want to. Over here, I can simply click on the add line. And go ahead and drag this over here. And that has now added a new line here. And I can type in okay, I know what that actually says, and it doesn't look like this at all. That's what it actually says. Yeah, that word right there says J.U. Ballard. And you wonder why I have challenges reading his handwriting sometimes. So that's an easy way to add a line in there. I can add regions if I need to. I can split regions in half if I need to. Let me go back over here to drag mode. Couple other things. I noticed this line was here and this was here. I'd probably rather have this kind of after this entry. If I go into this layout mode, which is these three bars here, click on layout, then I can edit the layout order. So I can easily click here, drag this down. So now that comes after that. And I can click on layout mode again to get out of that. And you'll now see that this shows there. And that says for Pop's Honey. Yeah, his handwriting is just great. Then I'm able to change that up, and then I can click save, and that'll go ahead and save the changes. Now, you're looking at this and going, okay, I can't really see where those blue lines are at. It's kind of hard to see. So I can click on settings and change what I'm looking at. Like if I don't want to see the regions in there, you know, maybe I'm having a challenge clicking around, dragging around because the regions keep showing up, I can turn those off. I can turn them back on. I can turn those lines off if I don't want to see them. They're called baselines here. And then maybe I want to make the line width a little thicker to be able to see what that is, or maybe I want to change the color on it. I can do all of that under settings if I want to. on the image. Text settings gives me the font, tells me to align text to left. I usually don't mess around too much with this. I will turn the regions and baselines on and off depending upon the document that I'm working on. Makes it a lot easier to do that. So there's a variety of different file types that you can upload into this. You can upload JPEGs, you can upload PNGs, you can upload PDFs to an extent. The file size for the images can't be larger than 10 meg. The file size for the PDF, I believe, is limited to 200 meg. So keep that in mind when uploading your files, but also keep in mind, so this image is showing up pretty clearly, and the writing's showing up pretty clearly. When I first scanned a bunch of the photos, and I just used my phone to take images of the photos, they ended up, I have a Mac, they ended up in the Photos program on my Mac. I then went and exported them, and I was running through exports really quick. I didn't really think about what size I was exporting these at. It defaulted to the smallest resolution possible. Yeah. Needless to say, when I went and looked at these and uploaded them into Transkribus, a couple of other letters, I don't know if I still have them in there, I can take a look, but they, yeah, they were hardly legible at all. They were very faded, they were very blurry, so make sure you upload or you have enough resolution in your photos to be able to upload a decent copy to Transkribus, but also know if you export out of another program, you may not be able to export the original large file or the original size of the file. You may have to knock it down to just a large size, but try to get as high a resolution as you can uploading into Transkribus. It makes makes it a lot easier on the transcription to be able to see that. So, and now Transkribus, as I said, does not do any translation. It only does transcription. If I want to do translation, I'd have to look at using another program such as Google Translate or ChatGPT. Now, have I tried using ChatGPT to transcribe some of these letters? Yes. I tried one. Actually, I tried a couple of them. One it did okay on. The other one was the, well, I'll show you. Let's see, that's good there. Let's go back to Ballard Letters. And we're actually going to go back to collections. And yeah, this fun little lovely thing. Let's zoom in a bit. So this is a church document from the Alsace-Lorraine region of France, but it's France today. The Alsace-Lorraine region, if you know any of the history of it, has been France, Germany, and gone back and forth over the years. This is a church document. Part of it's in Latin as well. So when I threw this into ChatGPT, it gave me a document that was entirely in French and then did a transcription on the French. I told it, hey, it's not a French document. It's in Latin and German and a little bit of French. And it still came back and gave me an entirely French document. So ChatGPT failed miserably on this document, but it did okay on the transcription. One of the challenges with Google Translate is that it'll only translate one language at a time. So I happily had it translate some of the Latin, and then I happily had it translate some of the German. That obviously doesn't come across very well, but it does work a little bit enough to give me the gist of the document. But I was able to go into ChatGPT and use this transcription and throw that into ChatGPT and say, okay, this is a document that has Latin and German in it. What is this translation of this document? And it was able to do that okay, and still match up somewhat with what Google Translate was telling me. So it did give me the gist of the information. in terms of the day and year that the person was born. So that was incredibly helpful. Um, but yeah, there's still some challenges. The biggest challenge I have is Chat GPT very much likes to hallucinate in terms of it just makes stuff up. And Transkribus is designed to very much not make stuff up. It's very much designed to just flat out transcribe it as is, match it completely, and that's really what it's designed for versus Chat GPT. It's like, oh, I don't know this. I'm just going to throw something out here and hope you don't notice. Which means I end up with a lot of rework with Chat GPT of trying to figure out, well, okay, this is what it told me, but is this actually correct? And I usually do a lot less rework with Transkribus. The other thing that's nice with Transkribus is, let's go back up here, is one, I've now got all these saved files in here under collections. I can go back in here and I can search any of these collections. So I know that in these letters, give it a sec. I can select the current collection. I can look at all collections. But this is, go ahead and click see all over here. I can do a quick full text search on all these letters and show, okay, my fourth great grandmother had a son that named William. She called Willie. It's like, where did he show up in the letters? And did his address show up in those letters? Well, now I've got him showing up 5 times in these letters. I can then go look at each of these individual transcribed letters to see if there's an address or more information about him in these letters that I've transcribed. And some of these letters I've gone through, and some of them I've hadn't. I've just run a transcription against it. So it is nice, allows me to go back and search through letters. And as I'm doing additional genealogy work, if I remembered, oh, my fourth great grandmother wrote something about this guy, I can go back and search her letters for it quite easily up here on Transkribus, and I love being able to do that. So let's go ahead, and so that's a little bit about the collections and doing a transcription. That's kind of a basic overview. There's a lot more you can do in here. You'll see that this thing eventually finished, and this is once it's transcribed, this is kind of what you get. And you notice it didn't include this 4 up here. I can look at adding something along those lines. But it does a pretty decent job of picking up all the lines in this letter. So now it's my job to go through and go, okay, does this actually make sense? Does it say much better in health long before this? Yes, it does. How nice. This should be reaches, not peaches, but once I've gone through and edited all of that, I can select done here. Once I select after done, if I want to go back and change anything else, and then maybe I finally, I'm happy with everything, I can select final. Ground truth here is for training models. So if you're going to be training, if you want to have hundreds of documents and you have any models that you want to train to make it easier to transcribe those documents, you can have several pages, think like 20 to 25 pages, be what would be called ground truth. And that means that, hey, these I've gone in, I've, had them, I've done the transcription on them, I've set up how they look on a typical layout, and this is what an expected document from this person would look like. And this is what I would expect it to say. So that's a ground truth that you can use in training a model. You can do a lot of different things in here. You can add regions, add tables. Do note something. So I've got this set up where the image is on the left and the transcription is on the right. You'll notice that all of your image tools here are on the left. Your zoom in, zoom out, your adding tables, adding regions, adding lines. All of that is on here on the left, like the images. The transcription is on the right. So transcription tools like font size, um, a virtual keyboard if you need it, any tagging in this transcription, or changing the layout of where the lines are within the transcription. All of that here is on the right, similar to where the transcription is. Now, can I change that? Sure. I can do this horizontally if I want. But I really like it vertically because it reminds me that all of my image controls here are on the left, and all of my images on the left, and my transcription controls are on the right, and so is my transcription. So, okay, couple other things. Let's talk a little bit about models. So, models, this shows you all of the available models that Transkribus has. These that are designated as supermodels, you do have to have a Scholar subscription to be able to access those. And they do typically include multiple languages. So like the Text Titan here includes English, German, Dutch, Latin. I can show a further description of it if I click on it here. It's going to tell me, does allow me to do quick recognition on that model if I want. Because I do have a Scholar subscription, I am able to go ahead and access this and use it. If you didn't, there are a lot of other options in here. You've got the German Giant, Dutch, and you'll notice here, this is the number of words that they were trained on, and this is the expected error rate for them. So you've got a whole lot of options in here from multiple different languages. Yeah, there's now I can search the models, I can filter specifically on a specific language. So if I'm looking for everything in English, it'll tell me that it has everything in the English language here. And I've got several that are marked as my favorite to use. The Text Titan I will use on documents that are not in English. The English Elder, I've not had as good a luck with that as I have the English Eagle. The English Eagle's been trained on about 3.8 million words, and it's got an 8.3% error rate. You would think the English Elder, which has been trained on 10 million words and a 5.3% error rate, would be better. But honestly, I found for English handwriting out of the US and Canada in the 1800s and the early 1900s, I have found that the English Eagle does an absolutely fantastic job, and the English Elder doesn't do quite as good. You can mark specific, if you find certain models are doing better for you on your documents, you can mark those as favorites so that they usually come up fairly easily when you go in to do a transcription. And you can play around in here. This is the training lab, so if I wanted to, I had something I was going to do training on once, but I canceled that out, so, but I can go ahead and train a new model here if I want to. Usually I don't. A lot of the models they have work really well. Now, there's a couple different types of things you can find models on in here. So if I want to find models on tables, so if I've got a document that's in a table format, then I've got something here called Amsterdam Tables that I can go ahead and take a closer look at if I want to. It will give me some information on it. Was trained in collaboration with the Amsterdam City Archives, contains 6 types of tables, differing mainly in the number of columns. The key identifier for rows is the numeral present in the first column. So this might work for me, this might not. I may, but I can train documents on specific tables. Makes it a little easier to do exports into tables at that point. I can also, there's certain layouts that I can train it on. Let's see if I've got fields in here. Yeah. So there's a couple things. And this is one of the ones, the notarial deeds, paragraphs, and marginalia. If you've ever looked at land records, they have these lovely, columns of a ton of information, and they always have stuff in the margins. What I'd wish I'd known is to run those Canadian land records against this layout first before I tried to do a transcription. It would have made the cleanup afterwards a lot easier, because this is set up to account for something exactly like that, where you've got huge paragraphs in the middle and then you've got a whole bunch of stuff in the margins, marginalia. So, yeah. There are times when it's easier to run a layout against a document first to make sure you get all the appropriate regions on that document that you want to actually have Transkribus transcribe. And so sometimes it's easier to run the layout first and then run the text transcription, and you can easily do that within Transkribus. So that's some of the information on models. Let's talk a little bit, looking at time here, let's talk a little bit about sites. I have not created any specific site. You do have to have a Scholar subscription to be able to create your own site. This allows you to create a website that you can then take the transcriptions and share them with other people. Share them potentially publicly with other people. There are several people out there that have created public sites. When doing this, Transkribus gives you the same warning: be aware of copyright issues. So if I was doing this for my Ballard letters, that'd be perfectly fine. We own those letters, we'd own copyright to them, no issues. If I was doing this for a bunch of images that I downloaded off of Family Search, yeah, there'd be a problem with that, because Family Search and the person that they got the images from would own the copyright to that, and there would be a problem with me downloading those, running transcriptions, and suddenly sharing them out to the world publicly. So yeah, keep in mind some copyright issues. These are public sites here. If you click on any of these, say if I wanted to Genoese notarial contracts, a sec. This is a project to transcribe and train Transkribus to recognize Genoese notarial contracts enacted from 1300 to 1550. I have no idea what to search on in here, but I can go ahead and search if I want to. I doubt he's going to be in there. Yeah, it's not showing me anything, but that is something you can then go in and do. You can share it with someone. And yeah, they haven't updated much. I can explore different documents from here. So if I want to see some of the different documents, I am able to go in and look at them and see what they've come up with for this Genoese notarial documents. And you can see how they've got the document here, and then they've got the transcription over here that I can then take a look at if I want to. So definitely something to keep in mind if you've got a bunch of documents that you do own the copyright to and you want to share those publicly with people, you are able to use Transkribus to do that. So let me get back to the home page here, or get back to my desk area. Give this a second to load. One last thing I wanted to show you. Let's go back into here. Sorry. One more letter. Is that? Yeah, okay. So actually, let me go back one. So from here, I can select this, and then I have options up here for, before I selected that, this gives me actions. So there's some actions I can do once I select one of these. Yes, I can go in and recognize it again if I want to, but if I have a drop down here, I can also select, I can use it to train models, manage labels, set status, or I can export it from here. And I can export images if I want, or docs, or a PDF file. This is standard export options. If I want to see what falls under PDF, do I want the image plus a text layer, images only? So what do I get in a doc, in a Word doc? Do I want to preserve the line breaks, which I often want to do when I'm doing a transcription? I can mark any unclear words. I can write the image name before any text if I want to. So if I want to do that, let's do standard export. I just want a doc. Okay. And start the export. It will go ahead and now start exporting that document for me. It does take a minute or two to go ahead and do that. I can either keep refreshing the page and it will eventually have the document export done. See, it's already finished. And then I can click download. It will go ahead and download that for me in a nice little zip file, which it will then open. And yeah. I did not preserve the line breaks I wanted to, but probably needed to select the other option for docs. But yeah, it did give me the transcription. You can see the Los Angeles, some of the things we changed there, the Dear Honey instead of Dear Tony, the J.U. Ballard there, the car for Fet. So yeah, that's what it will do. It can do it that easily. It has now also, by the way, sent me an email that said, hey, your download is ready, and here's a link to go actually get access to the download if you want to. That's another way you can access it, or you can access it through the activity window here by just clicking on the three dots and selecting download. Those are your options. Again, there's a variety of ways you can export. You can export into PDF, Word doc, markup languages. So choose what you want to export it into, and you'll be able to do that. So with that, let me make sure, quick. Yep. I think I've covered just about everything that you can do, basics in Transkribus. There's a lot more you can do in terms of tagging some stuff, as well as there's probably a little more we can get into in terms of shortcut keys on editing collections that make editing the collections a lot easier. But if you ever want to go ahead and learn about some of the additional editing tools, I do recommend going up and watching some of the videos on Transkribus's YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com/transkribus, you'll find them there. Excellent videos on how to do everything with Transkribus. They're absolutely fantastic. So let's go ahead and get to questions at this point. So is there any way to translate? No, there's no way to translate at this point. We did talk briefly about what file types can be uploaded. You can also check on that in the help. By the way, when I'm in here, if I need to access help, I can go over to the Help Center. And there's a ton of information here. There's getting started, uploading and downloading, text recognition, layout recognition, transcribing and editing manually, training any layout or text models, tagging, searching, sites, management, ScanTent and DocScan are a whole nother thing, and that's for developers. We're not developers here yet, or at least I'm not. So, but you can click on getting started. Gives you a lot of first steps and a lot of information here. So you are able to go in and find help that way easily. So let's see what else we have in questions. Have I compared Transkribus to ChatGPT or any of the other AIs? I did mention the comparison I did to ChatGPT, where ChatGPT really made a bunch of stuff up and caused me to really have to go back and double check everything again, which is one of the reasons I don't like using ChatGPT for transcriptions. I haven't tested it against any of the other AIs out there. There may be some that do it okay as well. I just find that if I'm doing a transcription, I'd have to do the transcription within the AI and then go back and probably double check everything. I'm going to have to throw the transcription in something and probably edit it anyways, because it's probably going to get something wrong in there. Transkribus makes it really easy to have a nice interface that I have the image up on the left, the transcription on the right, that I can go ahead and do editing and save it and then export it if I want to. KB mentions there's an app that is called Pen to Print that does a great job of putting handwriting into typed text. Um, you think it'd do a better job than what you're seeing from this program? Could be. Don't have to make so many differences. I would have to download and organize in folders of your own making. Um, you don't think the handwriting is that bad? Yeah, that's one of his clear letters, believe me, Kay. So, also some of the handwriting in some of my Canadian land records is bad too. But um, so yeah, it's up to you. Manage it how you want. If you find a program that does better and works for you, use that program. Transkribus is free to use, so that's another option as well out there. If you find something better, hey, go for it. Let's see, does the company have any connection with China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, so their libraries can upload documents of interest as you do here and let viewers use the info uploaded as is before translation from Chinese into English or whatever, i.e. letters, documents which you scanned into the computer at home or you mailed the hard copies to this company and have them scanned it in, created an online account for you, and it will stay there forever until you stop subscribe to it. Then you will not have access to the info, but the company could still use whatever that you sent to them. Okay, I'm not sure entirely all the pieces of that question. Right now, I don't think the company has any specific connections with China, Taiwan, or Hong Kong for their libraries uploading documents of interest, but I don't know all that they're working on. They may be working on some of that. The documents are yours to deal with. So once you create an account, it's up to you. It's a free account. You can do a free account or you can do a subscription. I'm doing a scholar subscription